What's up, guys? Ben here, and it's another episode of Scrap Time. As always, with my co-host James Crowder, aka the Ghost. Just a good guess, Chris. Right there for you. And on this episode, we have another guest. We are running back for the first time ever in the history of this show. We're running back, I guess, for a back-to-back episode. We have Dylan Price, aka Attached, joining us. Dylan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, man. A lot better than I'm joined with two brilliant Call of Duty minds, so I'm ready to get to work.
That's a good guess for Chris. Maybe overstated for me, but it's all good.
Definitely overstated for you. So, but I'm ready to get to work regardless.
I was gonna let it rock, dude. You know.
So, in general, I guess just before we get into COD stuff, like, how's you guys' weekend, Monday, day off going so far? We'll start with you, Dylan.
It was great. Was on the stream grind last week. Then I flew to Cancun Thursday night. Got back Sunday night. So. I was on the beach, drinking a lot of margaritas, tequila, eating good Mexican food, and then watching the matches on my balcony in a robe, drinking champagne. So can't complain. Cannot complain.
Wait, are you actually trolling, or did you actually?
No, he's serious. I saw the Instagram stories. How was that, bro? Did you go by yourself?
No.
Okay.
It was a good time though.
I know what that means.
I had a good time. And
so you had a good time. It was nice.
Matches, but now we're back in the grind. You know, quick little weekend.
No, yeah. Sometimes you need that reset. Yeah, you needed that reset, dude. Yeah, it's a beautiful place to reset too, dude.
Definitely.
What kind of champagne were you drinking?
I don't know what the first type of champagne was. Like, it was just because it was like all inclusive resort, so you just get the iPad, order whatever you want. So I don't know what type of that was. But then what's that like fancy one? I had that a couple times. No, not that fancy. Not that fancy.
Oh, my bad.
We're not on the starting salary anymore.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. My bad.
But yeah, I forgot. Like, what's that? Moet or something? Voe.
Moet Chandon.
Like, something like that. One of those cool looking bottles. But that's really it.
Ah, cool. Well, it sounds like you had a more action-packed weekend than me or Chris probably sitting at home.
Yeah,
watching COD from our bedrooms or dream rooms.
Well, dude, I was supposed to go out, and then I didn't. I was supposed to see a few friends. People are having they're having people over, but the matches just took forever. Yeah, that, and then I was gonna watch the Masters too, but I was just busy, dude. With everything COD wise, we had scrims on Sunday too, so I didn't even get to do that. Fucking grinding,
dude. You didn't really miss out. The final round of the Masters, I thought the third round in the morning was more interesting on Sunday. The Masters final round ended up being kind of a snooze because Brooks Koepka kind of...
Well, he did. He choked, didn't he not?
I wouldn't say it was necessarily a choke. It was more, he just kind of ran out of gas. A choke could be like he put in the water, like what... Love Jordan Spieth, like what he did in, was it 2016 where he put in the water in 12, or what?
I don't know.
Molinari did in 2019 where he put in the water in 12. It was more like Brooks ran out of gas.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't watch. I wouldn't even know. But I remember the day before Sunday, so Saturday. That's how that works. Yeah. I was told that like Koepka should just win. I thought he was frying. That's what people were telling me, but I didn't really watch or keep up with it. And then I heard that he didn't win in what? John Rahm won, right? John did. Yeah. Rahm.
OpTic fan and Boston Breach investor John Rahm won.
Let's go. That's his first Masters win.
Yeah, first Masters.
That's dope.
So. Yeah, no, John Rahm, I mean, he was in hot form coming into this event. He'd won a lot on the California swing. It was a little bit cold as of late, but he pulled up and won. So shout out to John Rahm, Call of Duty fan. But let's get in the matches, and if we can talk, Chris, as always, we start off before we get to the other teams with your squad. You guys had one match this weekend. It was against the Toronto Ultra. You guys took it 3-1, but map one didn't exactly go your guys' way. I know you're working on hardpoint stuff. My kind of first question for you is sort of from your POV, what happened after map one, and what did you guys do to sort of tweak things and then win 3 straight maps after that?
Well, we got a good map set for the series, so we weren't really too worried in general, just like for a deep series against them. But the map one, I mean, it was kind of going back and forth. I don't think we were playing that well, like even like kills wise and stuff. Like we weren't like getting anything too crazy. We didn't have too many opportunities to like fully like take over the map yet. You know, we were like kind of going back and forth. We ended the first rotation a little bit down. It was that P2 that I'm sure, well, the way we tried to approach the break of P5 was kind of trolly, and that's like what put us in that hole, so that was our first mistake. And then once we like reset, we started making a little bit of a comeback. We set ourselves up for greatness in P2, and then like sometimes we just test the... Dude, I'm telling you, like we just have like this habit right now where we test the limits of the game, and this is not a game that you could like. You can test the limits of it and like see what you can get away with, get away with. But like, there's a lot of times where like things can easily go wrong by doing that. And some of these matches, like we're again beating ourselves, where we get 4 dead, and then we get like 2 more kills, and all the kills that we get on that rotation leading to P2 spawn behind us, and we get broken because we're completely out of the play. And just like mistakes like that obviously shouldn't be happening, but I mean, I don't think we played that map as terrible until that moment, and that's kind of what shut us out. Like if we hold that, it's a tie game. Like, anything can happen, but we kind of just came out slow. I think we made the breaking mistake into that. We came out slow, and then after that, we played fine. I mean, our control's looking good. I think we're just been like putting a lot of work into making sure our control stays up. Our search has been pretty good all year, just with the coaching staff and just the players and all that. They've been dedicated. And then we got Mercado hardpoint, and we've been playing really good hardpoint in scrims. I know I've been saying this for forever, but like especially after Major 3, we've looked really good in hardpoint. So now it's just been like translating that to matches even more. I think this is probably the best we've looked in hardpoint and scrims. So we're just trying to continuously put that there. And when we got Mercado, we were pretty happy. Although I really wanted us to play Hydro. We like went into that match thinking there's no possible way that we were like stoked to play Hydro. Like we wanted to get a map rep on it. We've been, again, we've been playing good map, like just like good hardpoint and scrims. Like we've been doing so much work with it. We were like, sweet, we're getting Hydro no matter what, like guarantee. Like we didn't pick Hydro because we actually thought they were going to pick it for us type thing. Like we picked Hotel for that reason, and then they picked Mercado, and we were like, okay, well, there you go. So yeah, I don't know. We just have to kind of stop testing the game's limits on some of these hills, especially like a P2 on Hotel and shit. We do that way too much, and then like figure those things out, and we're completely fine. So I was happy with how they played. They look good.
Yeah, spawning people on the back on a P2 where you fully rotate to is probably not ideal, especially early on in the hill. At the end of the hill, that's a fine play. Trap them in so you can get the P3 chain.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the P2 play was not ideal. And yeah, I was going to actually ask you about, because I was surprised, and we talked about on the flank, like we saw the vetoes went down and saw that you guys had gotten Team A, and they ended up picking Mercado map 4, which I thought Hydro seemed like the smart play on their side. So a little surprised on that decision from the Toronto team. But good to hear you guys are kind of making progress. You guys have some interesting matches sort of coming up this weekend. I think you're playing Minnesota, and then you got to play. Who's your last match?
Fuck, I don't even know our last match right now, considering I've been
Minnesota
worried about the
Seattle,
new one. Yeah,
so
I was worried about
play
the next
Ramadan.
one, but yeah.
Ramadan and Betty, and we'll get to that later on.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling good going to both matches, getting either go 1-1, 2-0, and kind of get a good seed for winners.
As of now, yeah. Again, it's just what I've been saying. It's not even about who we're playing really, as much as it's just like focusing on like what the little things we need to fix in some of the respawns. Again, we have to like push the game to its limits and like be as aggressive as possible and apply the pressure, but also not lose us games by doing that. And we've not found the happy medium in that yet, which we have like more in scrims, but again, like we just have to be more consistent with some of the plays that we're making. Like not everyone can do everything all at once, kind of thing. So we're just gonna keep working on that in scrims and do that. I think again, I truly believe like when we play matches, a lot of the times like we beat ourselves. So it's not about like who we play. We just have to show up and like do our thing. But we still have some things to work out in practice and all that. So that's really what I'm focused on right now, is just like this next week, day by day. I'm not really worried about the weekend yet. I'm worried about today and see how things go today, and then tomorrow, and so on and so forth.
All good. Well, that's as always the Atlanta FaZe stuff at the top. If people have more Atlanta FaZe questions, we can get to that at the end in the viewer questions segment.
Yes, sir.
But let's dive into the CDL teams. As always, just as a disclaimer in this segment, we may not talk about all 12 CDL teams. Kind of a fluid thing. We sort of bounce around, but for teams that maybe aren't as interesting, we may not cover them. So apologies on that. Want to start out with the team that I think a lot of people are chatting about on the last couple of days, because they had a big victory over Thieves this weekend. That's OpTic. Texas, they are currently undefeated in this stage. And Dylan, I want to go to you first. After OpTic's victories this weekend, do you think they are the #1 team in the CDL right now based on form?
Based off their matches, I think you'd probably say if the major was starting now, they've looked the best based on the qualifying. Because who they beat? They beat LAT this weekend. They beat what was the other team? Because it was a good team.
They play New York.
New York, yeah, New York. Obviously, New York's been like up and down, but they beat them, 3-1, I believe. So they beat 2 pretty good teams, and I mean their hard points looking phenomenal. If they have a little bit more improvements in like search or control, I think that team gets really scary. But I think it's safe to say at the moment they're the best hardpoint team in the game.
Definitely.
But of course, it's still only 3-4 matches they've played.
They've
or
only
4.
played 3, but I mean, they've just looked dominant. And
Yeah,
my
ever
question to you
since
guys,
that London match,
yeah,
they've like just that run they've been on, they've been looking really good. So I would definitely say they're like, if the tournament was starting now, they'd probably be the favorites going into it based off form that we've seen.
yep. What are you guys thinking? Maybe Chris. First question to you, and I know if you don't want to fully answer this, I'll kick to Dylan. What did they do in hardpoint right now that's maybe different from others as to this form, or do you think they just execute their system better than anyone?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I feel like right now the way they play hardpoint, I think they're like maps that they prefer a lot. They're really good at Fortress. They're really good at Hydro. Like, you know, those are like 2 big maps for them. They're great at Mercado. They're good at all hardpoints. But like the maps that they're very good at tend to be a lot of teams like not like super comfortable maps, right? And I think that's like fucking huge. And we've like that's been talked about throughout the CDL's history. Like that is so important, and like they're so good at it. Like most people, I feel like view Hydro like and don't really like it because of the water and all of the stuff that, you know, like can kind of go wrong in that. And then you hear Shots get on interviews and say that the kid's that's like it's fucking favorite map of all goddamn time. Like he loves the map, and like they have a very open mindset with it. And I think that's huge because that map is something where like you're not going to change that map. It's going to be in the set. And if like you enjoy playing something like that, it's going to be a lot of teams like uncomfortable map set for them, and it's good. So I think that's like a big starter for them. But in general, I think they're just executing the system really, really well. Like I think their ARs do a very good job of like holding it down, like while the other two can kind of go like super reckless mode and just like kind of just be all over the map. I think they're confident at the moment, just like playing with like everything they're doing is going to be the right play. And I think they're just like kind of getting better and better off that. So I just think right now it's a product of having a good map pool and then also executing what they can do, obviously with the talent that they have. So it's like now they're executing it, you know, like they've had some struggles in the beginning of the season, but like it's just like when they're flowing like that and executing like that with the talent that they have, like they're always going to be a really good respawn team. So it's dope to see that they're playing like much better in that sense.
Dylan, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think their sub duo is just really good because they're both kind of, they don't really have like just one guy being the entry, being the dirty work player, like kind of taking those routes. I feel like they're both just go rogue when they need to. And Kyler, of course, extremely talented. He's been playing really well the past couple of matches. And then you have Shotsy on the other hand. So like when they're in your base, being annoying, just running around, it's just so tough to deal with. And they're both really good at being nuisances.
Yeah, no, they're annoying to play
they're
against.
They're both very annoying. And then like of course you have Dashy shoots really straight and just locks it down. And then I feel like Ghosty has a very good comms, so he kind of keeps like everything flowing and like it's like a well-oiled machine with that team when they're on point.
Yeah, for sure. I'm telling you, I really think their mindset is super underrated. Like just like a lot of the maps that people don't like, I feel like they just like kind of take and like find a way to love them and like genuinely enjoy playing those maps and getting better at them. And I think that goes such a long way. Like, you know, it's just that shit's so important. Of course, at the end of the day, every team's going to try and take every map seriously. Like you have to, right? But like at the end of it, like if you're really enjoying like these maps and figuring them out and like all these nerdy little things that you can do and playing this map in these scenarios, like you're going to get so much better at it just by being like creative and in that open mindset and like getting better and better. So I think they're just in a really good mental state as well as them being just good in general. So I think that helps.
Yeah, that's something I think even just to put a final point on that, Chris, you know, when Clay and Ant and Kyler and even Porter, aka Kremp, were asked about Modern Warfare 2019, like they said something similar, that they really enjoyed getting on every day with that team, really enjoyed playing the maps, and they always had fun in scrims. And I think, to your point, like finding that as a source of motivation rather than just purely being a job, like allows for more creativity, allows for more overthinking, and then more trust in the execution. But go ahead.
That's what I was gonna just add on to it. I mean, dude, Dylan, you can probably even talk to this too. I just think like any team or player, and probably like a lot of things, but just like keeping it Call of Duty related, like when you're genuinely happy playing and having fun, like, you know, like you're just in a better mental state, the environment's like more fun. Like, of course you have to be serious and critique each other and shit, but like you're just enjoying it more. You hit that creative peak, the open mindset, like just you're gonna have, you can't like replicate it. Like, you know, like if you treat it like a job, and like of course you want to treat it like a job and get better, and that's of course the mindset you want to have, but like that just amplifies it to something that you can't really replicate without having that feeling and having that mindset. And I really do think, like, especially players like Shotzzy and like Huke and all those guys, like when they're like kind of in that flow, they're really good, right? You know, they're obviously very talented players. They win. So like, you would agree with that, Dale? Like, I feel like anytime you've like in your career at some of your best moments and some of your like worst and other stuff, that's usually a lot of it's just like kind of how you're feeling mentally, like just like about the game and your situation, right?
Yeah. Because like if you hate the game, you don't like the maps, you don't like your team, who people you're working with, you're not gonna want to stay on and talk about more things. Just randomly play pubs with them, randomly play search and destroy wagers, tournaments, whatever it was. And then now, like when you're having fun, you're enjoying the game, you just want to play more naturally. It's not like you're forcing yourself to try to play more. You're just naturally playing more. And that's gonna lead to just you be more creative.
Yeah.
You guys maybe finding out a certain spot, like. And we know Shotzi with all his crazy spots in like ledges and all the movement things he finds. Like it genuinely seems like they're just having fun. And Shotzi and Huke as people too, they're very like go with the flow type of people. If something bad happens, it's not like, oh my god, it's the end of the world. They're just like, oh damn, and they move on. Like I think that they just complement each other very well in game and out of game with their mindsets.
So, I'm gonna ask a question that people are probably annoyed. This has been on Reddit and social media a lot, but while I have you guys here, I think we should have this conversation because it's important to an extent. Obviously, with OpTic's current form, they look favorite to win one of these next couple events. And they've been heavily linked, and obviously they attempted to pick up PRED at some point, you know, around New Year's.
Yeah.
Let's say that OpTic do well with this team, right? They hit the goals they want. Do they or should they run it back? Or do they pursue PRED and have to make a very difficult decision?
If they win out, like you're saying, if they win champs,
I would
give me
well,
I was gonna say, well, yeah, winning out's obviously pretty. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but
yeah, it's a no-brainer, yeah.
But like, I mean, man, it's pretty early for a question like that. I know people love talking about this shit, but like, it really just depends to see like, as well as they're doing right now. And I know they've had a slow start to the major 3 and all this other stuff. You have to see how people go through adversity together too. No matter what the team is, no matter how good the vibes are, I think like how you kind of go through adversity together too is really, really important to see if you're going to make a decision like that. I feel like it's, to give you like an honest answer, it's way too early to like give you, you know, something like logical. But if they were to win out, I mean, and they do really, really well and they're incredible and like they do all this stuff, like it would be hard to make a change because like, it's not like this team doesn't have talent. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Huke is, for example, PRED is incredible. Like, obviously, he's fucking amazing. But, like, Huke is really fucking good, too. And especially when Huke is playing good. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't have to make a change on talent, especially if they're playing really well. It just depends on, I think, how they face adversity, which eventually comes for every team. You know what I mean? And I or maybe, like, not this season, but eventually. But, like, if they don't face any adversity, they win out. Probably not. But if they do, like, how do they get through that and stuff like that? So, I don't know. I think if you win out, you keep them to answer the question, but I think it's really too early to tell. I feel like that's really hard to answer.
Yeah, don't you agree? A little too early?
The only thing, it just kind of depends how you do these last tournaments. Like if they get a third, another third or second, and then they go on to win champs, I think they would definitely want to stick. Because I feel like Ant or Shotzi would be like, oh, I mean, I teamed up with Kyler again. We haven't placed outside the T4 together. We just won another ring. It kind of be weird to switch, but then you kind of have to think about it like a player as talented as PRED, who could be a generational talent. He's just an amazing player. It's like, what do you do? It's kind of like, do you keep what's been working or do you try to go for more, see if that works out and how far it takes you? But it's tough to say because it's still so early. They've only had one full stage and one tournament together, which it looked really good, but we still have to see. It's a long season ahead if they can keep it up. But I think if they do win an event and then win champs or get like a top 2 at champs, I could see them sticking together. But it's just we just have to see it play out, honestly.
Yeah, if they don't win, it's a different story because people are in this. People are in the business to win. So if they don't win or anything, then
I think they're changing.
I think it's a little different. But if they get a win or really good placings and like the big win or something, I feel like it's really hard. It really just depends on what's going on behind the scenes with their camp too. If like they're actually getting along, like it's a lot of it's behind the scenes with that. But because it's so hard to pass up players like him, but at the same time, like that can go massively wrong when something's going already really, really well. So that just depends on like how they're vibing as like people, I think, towards the end of the season and like how everything actually happens. And again, if they do face adversity, what happens with that and all that. So kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's talk about the team that they played in what I thought was sort of the big match at the end of last week, which is LA Thieves.
Mhm.
And Thieves were coming in the weekend on good form, and they looked great against LAG on Saturday. Dropped one map in that series because they were just straight trolling on a Fortress S&D, and unfortunately, they kind of did the same thing against OpTic. I felt like there were a couple rounds in that OpTic match in search for once again with Thieves. They just do a good job. They don't struggle to get first bloods. They're very decent to good to almost above average in the league in terms of getting first bloods at over 50%. But the problem is they don't win like elite teams 7 out of 10 of those rounds, 8 out of 10 rounds. It's more like 6 out of 10 to 5 out of 10. So my question to y'all with Thieves is we know that they're a solid to great respawn team, but what can they do to kind of improve this S&D issue they have had essentially all season, limiting their ceiling? Chris, we can go with you first.
I mean, I feel like we briefly touched upon this last episode with Dylan. S&D, anything is fixable. No matter, it depends on how badly you want to fix it. I just think like S&D, you can fix S&D a lot of the times too, like game per game for like a month stretch where like you kind of just like figure it out and like make things work for the time being. And then like people will catch up to you and then, like you'll have to go through it again type thing. I just think a lot of S&D is like mid-game decisions and playing the game mode more and getting into the scenarios more and like, those 2v2s, 3v2s, 2v3s, 3v4s, like those are what truly make you an S&D team that's good. Like that's just what I think. Of course, there's always going to be like, start off strats and prepping and all that stuff that can get you a round or two. But a lot of the times when two good S&D players like teams play each other, it's just like those mid-round adjustments, the mid-round calls, how you're going to do this. Like, if you're in a clutch situation in a 2v2, like, how often are you actually winning those? What is your call? Are you making dumb plays? Like that, and that just comes from playing the game mode more and like getting into the scenarios more and like really, really putting in extra work like that. Like I know last year there was a lot of S&D 8s and all that stuff. Like I truly think like that is how you become a better S&D team. Like you can be a good S&D team, but a lot of it's like individual of how good you can be at S&D too. So like it's fixable, but it just depends on like how badly you really want to fix it type thing.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I think, yeah, like you said, you have your start off strats or your counter strats to play a team, but then it gets down to a 2v2, 2v3. What are you going to do in these situations? It kind of comes down to like instinct for how much you've played that game. Like if MW2 this game, you don't really see that many S&D 8s. You don't really see that many S&D tournaments or wagers like the S&D scene was once really popular before. So I think people just aren't as good as S&D as they once were because there's just not enough areas you can practice in it. The only time you really play it is in team scrims with your team, and no one's even going that hard.
That's not S&D practice.
There's no money on the line. No one really cares. You're throwing that extra ego chow out there. You're not shouldering and snaking as much as you should be. So if you can find ways to get creative and still focus on your S&D, it will really help you in the mid to late round, which is where Search and Destroy is really won instead of just like strats only get you so far. You have to have that mindset and what to do in those clutch scenarios.
Yeah,
well, I mean, Thieves are. Go ahead, Chris. Now,
Sixer in the chat's just talking right now about this. Like, so Thieves S&D, like they were good at S&D last year. They won back-to-back events. They figured it out for a small period of time and they won. Like that's what I was just saying. But like, I don't know if you're saying this way, Sixer, or not. But you just said they have to just fix their mid-round plays. Like mid-round plays, like there is no mid-round play unless like you're saying just like the way they adjust. Like, dude, like. You don't get into the same scenario in S&D like over and over and over again. Like that's just not how it works. Like if you're in a 3v3, it's not always the same 3 people alive. It's not always just like you have to like have the instinct. Like they're situationals. That's what you're. Okay, I was just making that clear. Like there's not like this world because I know some people do think this. This is why I'm kind of clarifying it. Like there's not this world where like even for us like with Slasher, like he's like our probably most vocal person in S&D, but. There's going to be times where Slasher dies and it's just a Beezy and Celium in a 2v3. Slasher's not calling the shit for them to do. You know what I mean? Like he's letting them play and they make their decisions and like so on and so forth. So it's just capitalizing on those bloods and all that stuff is a lot of, again, just who's alive, where they are, and like the instinct of those players. And I think the best way to get better at that stuff is by playing S&D. And I also feel like Thieves specifically, I feel like, I don't know if their whole team played last year, but I know Draws played a shit ton of those S&D 8s, I'm pretty sure. I think a couple of them played him and just like slowly got better at that and probably even brought stuff to his team. So I just think, like individually getting better at S&D and more aware will turn you into a better team overall, just because like those scenarios are only, you can't replicate them until you're in them. And again, sometimes Octane might get first blooded and he's not a part of the play. Sometimes he will, and then he can call this play. Like, it's just so much to it. So it's just like, yeah, I don't know. I think like mid-round plays are not just like these set plays that like are on a drawing board of like, oh, this team does this, so we do this. Like, you have to just like be like really in the moment with a lot of the stuff that you're doing and make those right calls. And there's people that are just flat out better than others at doing that. Or you can learn it again game by game and stuff. So definitely fixable, but it just takes a lot of effort.
I think on the Drazah front, I was talking to Paul X maybe 2 weeks ago on stream, and he said that especially after last major, Drazah was very disappointed in his individual performance, and he's been grinding a little bit of search. But I mean, to Dylan's point, like S&D8's dead now. S&D tournament scene pretty much dead. I mean, you're only
all right.
Go ahead.
So no, sorry to cut you off.
Dead
like,
relative
like,
to
no,
previous
dead.
games.
But like,
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
I think it's kind of a complicated answer, right? It's part of it is are players interested in playing it to begin with, or people just kind of put off by, oh, well, I'm going to play PC wagers, and I just assume that everybody's cheating. The proliferation of tournament websites over the last couple of years used to just be concentrated to 1 and 2 sites, and now you've got 50,000 other sites and Twitter accounts running tournaments. So these are not really stacked. You play a tournament, and people are in 4 other tournaments, so it takes forever to play even like a 12-team, 8-team tournament. Like, I'm sure that there's a lot of factors as to why S&D has fallen off. And we haven't even talked about like the Warzone thing, the rank play thing as to driving that.
But yeah,
but here's my other point I was about to go to, Chris, is from talking to coaches, and you probably agree, like there are also a number of teams in the league that even when they get S&D practice as a team, like they don't take that seriously. They're even in like the scheduled stuff that they have beyond the extracurriculars, like they aren't taking that part in a way that will actually help them down the line. And that's why you have a number of teams this year. I think when it comes to search, they just don't look like they're on the same page.
Dill, do you want to add to that before I do?
No, you can go.
I was just going to say, so I think teams do take their S&D practice seriously. I just don't think it's the same kind of serious as like what we're saying. A lot of times there's not a lot of money on the line. And again, you also have to, S&D practice against other teams is also with a grain of salt. Like, you can't play for a 6-0 fucking victory against another team. They're going to have the VOD on you the next time they play you. Like, you can't just like throw everything that you know in scrims at teams, because that doesn't make any sense. Like, again, a lot of it's mid-game adjustments and stuff, but a lot of those mid-game adjustments and also like those things aren't going to be as serious in a team scrim because of the environment. And like, it doesn't mean you're not trying. It's just not the same similar situations that you're in. And what I was getting at with like the 8s and stuff, yeah, there's a lot of websites that suck, and the S&D scene's in shambles. If you ask me, I think that Activision should shut down a lot of the S&D sites and just make one hub that only S&D can be played on in S&D tournaments. Run a bunch of them. I think it would fix a lot of the issues, and I think it'd be way better. I think if they cared enough about that, they could fix that scene. A whole different topic, but I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams in this league that aren't good at S&D or aren't good at, whatever it is. There's a lot of teams in the league that just need to get better to make champs, right? So there should be a lot of motivation in general to try and get some of those going, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, we were talking about having fun and all that. You definitely want to have some fun and do your thing, but like, at the end of the day, like, you also do need to work at the right stuff too. And like, you should like try and like take a step forward on your own and like try and get things started if you can. It's a little easier said than done, but like, yeah, people in my chat were saying like a lot of people are just playing rank play all day. Like, depending on the player and who you are and all this stuff, like, yeah, playing fucking iridescent rank play kids, that's not practice, bro. It's a waste of fucking time. Like, it just depends on like who you are and what team, but there should be at least 8 players in the league that are motivated enough to get better at S&D. That's my point. Yeah. So I feel like you can still try and get a better chance of like doing that if you really need to. So I don't know. I don't think it's just dead, and I feel like there's also people that can revive it if they really wanted to as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, I think it could be revived for sure if like the player stepped up and wanted to do it. I mean, even Tupac, he was having his S&D 8s and stuff that was happening last season, a little bit this season. So it could be done, but it's just like no one really wants to step up and do it. And yeah, playing rank play is fun. It is fun. Some people might learn a couple new spots, a couple new things, some certain timings if they get enough reps on it, if they're playing Search and Destroy, but it's not like a consistent way. That kind of just depends on the person as a player. Like, if they're streaming, are they actually like trying when they play ranked, or are they just kind of like running around and going through the motions, or are they trying to get better? Because you really could get a little bit better. There's not going to be some drastic increase, but you might find out a couple new things and some nade spots and random timings and shit. But other than that, I think, well, I hope that, like you said, Activision just makes one website where everything is played on, and I think that would be awesome. Because
that would be cool.
That not only increases the players, you'll make a little bit more money if you win the tournaments. People can stream more and play those and have fun, and I think it's better content for everyone. The players, the orgs, the community. Everyone loves watching the late night S&D matches or the 2K tournaments that would happen from the day till the night. Like, people love watching that stuff, and it's fun to play as well. So one day, hopefully it comes back, but I don't know with the current landscape if that's going to happen soon.
I don't know if that's a CDL thing. Is that a CDL thing? Could a CDL like step in and do that? Because I truly do think
they
like
could if they wanted.
I mean, bro, the 77 million sites that have like these $5 entry tournaments that you play 2 teams and you win $20, like, bro, it's just it's people are always going to run away from playing better people in competition. Like, no one wants to play a big tournament just to play, you know, 2 players from FaZe and OpTic on the same team and get this body slammed out of the tournament. And you spend $20 to get in and you get eliminated. So like they play on all these other shitty sites so they have a chance of feeling good. Like, that's always going to be a thing, and it would be. I feel like this is not talked about enough, but like, yeah, dude, a lot of these S&D sites and shit are so stupid that there's like a billion of them. And if they did like make them all on one, like, you would at least be getting 16 to 32 team tournaments eventually. Yeah, like at least that is the case. Like, you know, add like 4 of these websites, have 4 team tournaments, and now you add all those together. You know what I mean? Like, you can get bigger tournaments and like slowly fix it. And what Dylan said too, like the content aspect of it, like there's nothing better, or maybe I'm just biased because this is what it used to be, but like watching like a pro from each team, like, or like, you know, a bunch of like, you know, good players like on the same team and playing like these pickup S&D tournaments that are just like pretty big money and like pretty intense. Like, it's awesome to watch. Like, I do think like that'd be cool if the CDL stepped in and like created something like that. And also, that's a really good way to get people that aren't 18 back into Call of Duty 2 here and there. That's where a lot of people came up from. Like, Dill, you know this, but like even like a lot of the players on my team, like they made their name by just winning all these S&D tournaments at the start. You know, like it sucks that I feel like the S&D scene should definitely, if someone tries to like revamp it a little bit more, that'd be awesome. I don't know if the CDL can step in and do that. That was my initial question. But
let me step in on this real quick. So I think the complication in all of this. So game battles was there was a big push by Activision on game battles for a number of years, right? Like at World War II, you had game battles like integrated into the actual game. I think it seems like, based on the real lack of marketing around game battles, stuff that I may have heard or know, or you guys have probably heard, like, I don't think that it's a priority internally at Activision these days.
Yeah.
And that's how other businesses like UMG and CMG have started to take more market share. I think what's interesting from a business perspective is that the Microsoft merger is looming with Activision. And what does Microsoft want to do once they've completed the merger, if they do?
Yeah.
What do they want to do with the Game Battles product? Do they want to try and leverage sort of the collective IPs they have now between their first party stuff and the Activision intellectual property that they're getting, such as Call of Duty? Do they want to try and make a push? And I agree with you, the proliferation of sites, like if they can revamp Game Battles and sort of, you know, do something about the competition, like they can bring back that excitement that used to exist 6, 7, 8 years ago, where people got on, the nightly tournaments were popping. That was sort of the form of entertainment. I'm just very curious to see what senior leadership at Microsoft wants to do with it, because I think it doesn't really come down to the CDL. I don't think they have control or really can do much in terms of dictating the direction of that Game Battles product and team goes. I think that's a senior leadership thing, and it really sort of depends on the merger.
Yeah.
At this point, I would say.
Yeah, I guess they can only really like just like recommend like it'd be a cool idea, but they can't enforce anything. That's what I figured. But yeah, it would be cool, even if it's not just one site, but like at least just like 1, 2, maybe like 3 max. But dude, there's just so many of them where like you can just play these like bullshit, like, dude, $3 entries, you win $15 and like you get a gold trophy on your profile and you feel great about it. Like, it just, dude, there was nothing better than what you said back in the day. Like every night after scrims, there'd be like your 6 p.m., your 9 p.m., and your like, you know, your late night, like 1 a.m., like one and done. And like there'd always be a good amount of teams. I mean, people were making like good ass money off this too. Like, you know, like people that were winning, like where you were making really good like cash
I've
off
seen
it.
I've seen Cellium's PayPal
No,
account.
dude, all those S&D guys were making so much cash off it because they were so good. But like,
Yeah.
it's just like it was just a cool way. The streams were popping. Like, you know, you had your little S&D squads, and like they'd all go out. Like, dude, it was just it was a cool thing to see. So it'd be pretty dope if
I
they did
think
something like that.
I also think one of the biggest reasons why the S&D scene kind of died is nothing to do with the game at all. Is actually because there's so many different websites, then people were tourney sharking. So if you started a tournament at
true.
8 p.m. instead of back in the day when there wasn't that much tourney sharking that bad, it would end at like midnight or maybe 1 a.m. But now if you start a tournament at 8 p.m. and everyone's in 3 different tournaments, that's not ending until like 3, 4, 5 in the morning. Like I remember when the kickoffs happened in this game.
Oh, dude, those are miserable.
We legit waited. I think we played the ROKKR Academy in finals, and I think we waited like 2-3 hours in finals waiting to play them. So like stuff like that makes people not want to play anymore. That's why you need one website that actually enforces the rules, hosts the tournaments. And if you're a pro, it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 viewers or you're a nobody with 1 viewer. If you're late, you get forfeited. That's it. Like
I agree,
they have to be
dude.
cutthroat with it. You can't let these people finesse, because everyone does it. All pro players, all S&D stars, they all finesse the tourney sharking just because that's the way it is right now. But you need someone to actually enforce the rules. I don't care if you're on OpTic with 10,000 viewers, you get forfeited. I don't care if you're a random nobody who started playing COD today, you get forfeited. Like it just wastes so much time. It makes everyone not want to play. That's
the reason why I stopped playing myself like probably a year or two ago. Like I would try and play some of the late nights, but it would just be so hard. Like if you just make a run on them, they just go so late. But I've always had that take. I fully agree with you. Like, dude, I don't care who you are, man. Like if you're in 3 other tournaments on a website, like bro, if you're late, you're late. Just move the fuck. You know, like I've always hated the fact that like people would make each other wait like an hour and a half, and then like the best thing about those situations still is like someone would forfeit someone else, and like that person that was like an hour late would just be so mad that they got forfeited at the person. Like it's like, dude, like dude, that is like the most insane thing to me. Like I always have fully agreed that, dude, if you're gonna tourney shark and you're gonna play these, like if an 8 p.m. tournament with like 16 teams starts and it's a one and done, it should not take 8 hours. It just shouldn't. It should be quick and easy, and then you can get more in, and like it also makes you like, you know, choose which tournament you actually want to play in. It makes it more money, more people will be in it, and like it'll just be such a better experience for everyone. And content wise too, like what you just said, Dill, like when you're streaming and you're in the final and you're waiting 2.5 hours to play the final, like bro, it's boring as shit. Like no one wants to. Like the stream's boring because like you're kind of just like eventually getting like restless, and like there's just nothing
you're just
to do.
falling asleep in your chair. Yeah.
If there was a world where we end up living in a place where like that's like more enforced, like they get rid of a lot of that stuff, like the tourney sharking completely forgot about, like dude, man, it could be so cool, dude.
We pivot real quick. I want to talk about something else that might be questionably boring, because I just saw an interesting tweet on the timeline, and I'll follow up with that shortly.
Yeah, I think I'm about
bounty
to
matches. Bounty matches. Do we think they're working? Do we think they're boring?
Okay.
And then we should get into what we would do differently. So first question, you guys like them, hate them? How do you feel about them so far this year?
You want to go take this?
No, you go first still.
Okay, I was going to say, I mean, bounty matches are cool for the players because you make more money, but other than that, I don't think it really matters. I don't think anyone sees, oh my God, it's bounty week, I'm going to watch, because I wasn't watching before. The same people that were watching are going to watch. The same people that weren't watching might watch, but I highly doubt it's that big of an influx of new people coming in to watch because, oh wow, $10,000 is on the line. So I think it can be used in a lot better ways to have some kind of fun games. I don't know, like, you know how they have the all-star games in NBA or for the Pro Bowl with NFL, like something like that, that's different, that's going to make people want to watch. But like right now, no one's watching because like, wow, this team could win $10,000. They're not just switching their whole day around to watch the same match, same team, same players. Like if you watched already, you're going to keep watching. So I don't think it really changes much. But it is nice to win bounty matches because, you know, it's a couple extra cash in the players' pockets.
Yes, I agree. I think the bounty matches are cool. I don't think they're like bringing any like more draw to a bounty match. Like our Toronto, and I don't think anyone watched that because it was a bounty match. Like you're just gonna watch bounty matches because it's a good match. The OpTic LA Thieves one, I'm watching that because it's a good COD match. I'm not watching that because there's $10,000 on the line. You know what I mean? Like it's just I don't think that draws enough. They're cool for the players and you can get your cash, but I feel like you can use a lot of that money elsewhere to do other stuff. Even if it was something eventually in the future where we get teams like host those like weekend lands, kind of like what Minnesota did, like seeing more of those, there could be something like maybe where like that happens where it's like more incentivized for the players to want to travel to those, whatever it is, or like I'm gonna bring up this JP tweet because chat's saying it, and I saw you replied to it too. But hold up, that's scrap time too. It's right here, right? Yeah. So you can see this, but like it just says weekly weekly midweek 2K tournament greater than bounty matches. I agree with something like this too. Like I think those tournament scenarios are cooler. Like they're more fun. Like they're a little bit more serious. You get more matches in 1, 2. You can get individual streams potentially depending on how they wanted to run that. Like I just think that's an overall better idea than the bounty matches. Just something where it creates more content, more draw to watch, and like it's just better overall. The bounty matches aren't bad. I just think they can be better.
So they just don't really do anything like the bounty matches. There's no actual change. It's just $10,000, but that can be used in so much better ways. The weekly 2Ks could be a $5,000 tournament if you play it, but let's say each team has to play it. At least one player from each team has to stream, so you have point of views of every single roster. People would love watching that shit. That would get so many views. So hopefully they kind of look to add that in with the new format of schedule moving forward.
Yeah, I'm seeing questions like how would seating work and all that. Like, I think the product design questions are sort of irrelevant to this point. I think to like JP's idea and just the idea in general, I just don't know what data they have on their side that's justifying running back the bounty matches. I don't see how it's increasing engagement, more chatter. Like, I just don't know what their goal is with it. And from like the hard, because we're hardcores, right? You guys are players. I watch every match. Like people probably tuning in the show are mostly not casuals. I don't think any of us really like care about the bounty matches. So I just think that money that they're spending, and I think it's a decent amount, right? How many bounty matches are there?
So that was my next question. Yeah, how much money is actually going into these bounty matches? And anyone in all the chats right now, whoever's streaming, could I just get like a 1 in the chat? Or actually, not even that. Just like how many of you guys actually watch the bounty match because there's a bounty match? Like that. Like how much did that actually sway your like watching of it? I'm just like curious to see like the feedback from all the chats. But people are saying 50 or 60K. Ben, how many bounty matches are there? Did you get
There's 6 in each split, so they're spending $120,000 theoretically on these bounty matches.
That dude, like imagine what $120,000 can go to like these tournaments or something else that's like, again, it would be better for the league, it'd be better for the players, it'd be more content. Like I that's a lot of money to go to a best of 5 online. And also some of the bounty matches aren't even that good. Like of just matchups sometimes, to be honest with you.
It's just the seeding. So like the 11 seed will play the 12s. It's whoever you're near.
No, that's what I mean. So it's just like kind of just like whatever. You know what I mean? Like some of them just aren't that good. And I think every single person that responded to my chat, I don't know about you guys, say they just don't care. Like I just don't think the overall feedback from a lot of people that really do hardcore watch like care about it. Yeah. Again, it's cool that there's money on the line, but like again, they're gonna watch regardless. So like give them something else to watch that's just more fun.
That's actually different.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Imagine like just something different.
Yes. Listen, all 3 of us, if anyone from the CDL is watching this, me, Chris, and Dylan will be at Major 4 next week. Feel free to hit us up, and we're happy to help you brainstorm how to spend that $120,000 more appropriately next year. I think to get more engagement, I have a lot of ideas, but I don't want to waste 55 minutes on the show talking about it. But I think we all agree that something needs to change there. Let's get back to some of the teams. We were talking about S&D before we went on this tangent. I want to talk about a team that was looking like one of the better search teams in the league, but they've just fallen off in form in the split after winning the last major, and that is Toronto Ultra. They did manage to grab 1 dub this week, but they're sitting in a position right now where they've lost in this major to New York. They beat Boston. Apologies. They lost to Boston in game 5, lost to Seattle in game 5. And then obviously, Chris, your team beat, we talked about earlier, but they did beat Florida at the end of the weekend. So they're basically going to a match against Vegas next week. They need to win. And they're doing that while their respawn's pretty good record-wise. I think they're like 7-4 in respawns, but they've only won 1 S&D so far at the split. What do you guys think has happened in their search through the 4 matches they played online? Go with you first, Dylan.
Yeah, I think we saw Scrappy talk about it and even tweet about it, saying like how bad the game is online. And I don't think he just means based on like connection wise, probably like the difference of like the sound EQ and all that stuff. So there is a lot of variables why their S&D could be getting worse. I don't know. There's so many things that could have happened, but I think they just need to get through this online split and then go to the tournament and see if they do bad there. Then I think you actually worry, like, oh shit, like what the heck happened to this team and their search and destroy. Because maybe we said it last week, like maybe they just had like the post, oh, we just won, we're not going as hard in practice, whatever thing going on. But I don't know if that's for sure. But I think it's just not working for them right now. I don't know if it's because of a certain thing or they're just annoyed easier. They're not going as hard. Who knows? But we're going to have to see like at the LAN where they were looking at their best at it, if they can keep it up or bring it back, I should say, not keep it up.
Well, there one thing I wanted to bring up is, I wonder if in general, they were kind of in a weird position overall in search, because this season their first blood win percentage actually not particularly high, and their first blood percentage was not particularly high. I think it was floating around 50%. And right now through this split, they're actually in the low 40s in first blood. So maybe and it's just sort of hard to say on a macro level with their S&D, but like it's not like they were dominating, getting a lot of bloods, and then playing out the 4v3s. They were kind of relying more on their executing tactics. And now the Slang is just in general really struggled with their team, right? The only person I think is consistently slayed very well this split has been Scrappy. He's been putting up unreal numbers, especially in hardpoint control. And I think Toby's actually been decent at hardpoint, but across the other game modes, Hixie's averaging like a 0.8 across all the game modes, which is not very good. And Insight's unfortunately not having a great online split either. I wonder if the lack of slaying is hurting them, and then that cascades to S&D. They're just kind of behind the 8-ball, and they're not getting blown out in search still, which is interesting. They're losing a lot of these 6-3, 6-4. They're not losing them 6-1, 6-2. They blew at least one around 11, and they're not really able to sort of close out or really grab momentum in these S&Ds right now. It's very odd. Here's your thoughts, Chris.
I'm going to take Toronto's back for a second. Yeah, I hate the phrase online. That kills me inside. But like this game online with like search can definitely be weird. Last stage they were not good at search online either. Like they went 3-2, but they did not go 3-2 because of their search. I'm pretty sure they were like 2-5 or 2-4 in it online. And then I'm pretty sure going into Major 3, their S&D was goddamn near flawless, if I recall correctly, at Major 3, like on LAN. I'm pretty sure they flip flopped, and it's kind of the same thing right now. Like they're not doing very good online in S&D again. And of course, if you go to LAN and then there's still an issue, like you still want to find like more of consistency. That's not a full excuse. I'm not saying like that excuse is just like, like perfect. But if you do allow that to get in your head, that immediately fucks up the mental side of things. But just be like, it could be something where like they just won and then maybe they're getting a little bit more frustrated and like things are going their way. I still am not really in panic mode with Toronto at all. Their respawn looks decent. Their control looks really good still. I think their control is fine. They just have to find that happy medium. If they go to this LAN and they still suck at S&D, then clearly something's wrong. I wouldn't say it's like something of their slaying though, Ben, because a lot of players have the mental to like kind of reset after that and like go into search and be fine. A lot of players that actually can't slay in respawn end up being really good at S&D in the sense like they actually kind of bring it back in that mode. But
TJ's a good example there.
Yeah, but like I do think like winning a major will always kind of have a little bit slower start. Either like the next time, even if you don't feel it, sometimes I do feel like that happens a lot more than you think. But they weren't that good at S&D online last split either, and they still made it work. So I wouldn't hit the panic button or anything like that. I would kind of give them the benefit of the doubt since they did completely flip-flop it from online to LAN last major. They can probably do that again. And they're not getting blown out in these S&Ds too, as like what you just said. Like I think that's a big part too. They're losing a lot of close ones, even to us. Like they lost a close one to us. They lost a close one to Boston. Like they're losing close S&Ds, and that shows you that they're not terrible at the game mode. It's just not fully clicking. And I also do think that's just the product of like sometimes when you do play really well at S&D at Major 3, people are gonna like, what do you think people do? They watch your VOD. They like see what you do. They pick up on your tendency. Like being good at S&D for a long time is hard because people are trying to constantly catch up to you, and then you have to constantly change it up and figure it out, right? So it's like they could just be slumping a little bit too, like potentially. But we'll have to wait and see. They did this kind of super similar last split too, and then figured it out. So I think they're all good.
I looked it up, Chris. The last split they were online. They were actually 3-2, but they started off 0-2 in search online, and they only lost one search at the event, which was a Fortress S&D to OpTic.
Wait, online in stage 3 online, they were 3-2.
Yeah, online. They were 3-2, but they started off 0-2.
No, they weren't.
They lost in S&D to Boston and Vegas to start off major 3 qualifiers, and then they beat OpTic, New York.
Am I faded?
And then they lost to London, so they were actually 2-3. Apologies there.
I have. What stats are you looking at?
2-4. 2-4. I missed another.
Okay, yeah.
2-4.
So
Okay,
we just went from 3-2 to 2-4, Ben.
Wow, I can't fucking count. I need a better sheet for stats, bro.
Yeah, you do.
Come on, man.
I need a better
Lock
stat
in,
sheet. It's
baby.
hard to read this for stuff, but
yeah, I was
gotta
saying,
lock in,
I
but
fucking.
either way, to your point though, like when they got to land, they then turned it on. And the only search they lost. I mean, they ended your guys' S&D streak, obviously, when you played them in winners finals, but
they went 5-1 on land. Yeah.
They went 5-1. Their only loss again was the Fortress S&D, which obviously when it comes to OpTic, that's a good map for them. But yeah, I wonder, Chris, if the Counter Strike thing is really hurting them. The Sound EQ stuff online is really hurting them.
Yeah.
They're trying to get back on that wavelength, and again, they're not getting blown out in search. They just got to try and figure it out because it's the only limiting factor on their performances. Like they've been pretty good in the respawns online. Like they're still an amazing control team.
Yep.
Online. Hard points have been fine. Like as we talk about it, outside this OpTic situation, like going 500 or winning 60% of your hard points is pretty good. They're a great control team. Once they get the search thing going, they're good. But the problem right now is, unfortunately, with these series losses, they've got to pull up to Vegas and win. And I think 2-3 probably gets them in the way things are shaping up right now, unless London or LAG or Florida do something crazy next week. Like 2-3 should get them in. And hilariously, it may even hurt the team that gets the number 1 overall seed or the 2nd overall seed because you might have to play Toronto round 1 of winners in the bracket for Major 4, which will be really interesting.
Cool.
It's a lot of good teams, man. So it's gonna happen. There's gonna be some
you're
good
gonna
first round matchups.
You play a good team first or second round, so doesn't matter anyway. Yeah.
Another team, just to move off of Toronto, we're gonna talk about a bunch of 1-1 teams, and we'll get to some 1-0 teams. New York had 2 matches this week. I know that major the first week they had a really good victory against y'all, Chris. And then this week they played ROKKR, 3-1 them, looked good, and then again they just kind of ran into the OpTic train and really struggled there. We've been talking a lot about the New York feels kind of day to day at times. And weirdly enough, I want to ask you guys this question on New York. They were a team that was like 7-1 or 8-1 on Fortress Control. Their map pool in that game mode, they're solid at Hotel, but they really suck at a CeeLo, and they haven't played Expo yet. Do you think that they might be one of the teams that are currently 1-2 in Control right now that really needs to figure out Expo because it kind of shows sort of a weakness that they have on the control side that they need to remedy if they want to make a deeper run at the end of this year? Start with you, Chris.
I mean, yeah, Fortress Control hurt them the most. They were the best Fortress Control team probably on paper, like statistically, and it getting taken out hurts. And we've talked about how important Control probably is as a game mode. It's the swing mode. It saves you, blah, blah, blah. So like, yeah, I think that definitely hurts their consistency. With they've kind of shown up, and I think they've been working on what we were talking about with their consistency stuff, with like their hard point and their search and stuff. But they always kind of had like a solid Hotel control, if I remember. And then their Fortress was always really good. So they were able to get rid of the silo and like not have to play that a lot, right? And that's not something that they were super comfortable with. So now kind of being forced in an uncomfortable spot, like it's going to hurt their consistency even more. And like it's going to force them to now work on a different map and get better at control overall as a game mode, because you have to focus on now 2 maps probably to work on, right? Expo and a silo. And then on top of that too, like you have to make sure like your other respawns are still good enough to carry you over with your searches. So like it definitely hurt them a lot. But at the same time, like I think it's just a big thing for them is just showing up, and it's not just a game mode thing for them. For me, at least, like when I watch them play, like I just think sometimes like the way they play and their aggression and their style, like is just really hot or not, and it shows up. And sometimes they're disgusting, and sometimes they kind of just fall a little bit flat. And I think they're trying to work on consistency issues with that. I think Skies talked to Maven and Merc a good amount about stuff like that on their podcast too, on the Toronto one. So I think that's like been like even addressed by them a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it hurt them definitely the most in the league out of everyone. It definitely didn't help them at all. But at the same time, like there's other things that they need to work on just to get in general, better as a team to like, continuously contend. But yeah.
I know your friends are Preston. Like, does that come up when you've talked to Preston all in terms of catching up with him?
To be honest with you, I haven't talked to anyone outside of my team really at all. Dude, like me and Preston have actually tried to like sit down and have dinner at probably like 2 or 3 of these events because like he's like one of my really good friends and all that stuff. And like every time he has a team dinner that he can't skip because like it's a team dinner, it's a major. And the same thing for me. It's like, oh, well, my team dinner is at this. It's just like so hard to really like kind of, you know, catch up with each other as much as we'd like to. And just like with all my friends outside of my team and everything. So I haven't really been able to talk to him too much on like that level, to be honest.
Yeah. It's not like the old days at events when you can just go
Yeah,
hang out with
dude, it's
whoever you
hard,
want.
man. Yeah.
Until like Sunday night at least.
And Sunday
I
night,
think-
I'm usually sleeping, bro. I'm boring, bro. Yeah, like I never like, yeah.
One of the things that CDL, not to get too off topic, but like back in the day, right? MLG days. The way it worked is, you know, MLG booked accommodations for the league, and then MLG booked accommodations for at least the players when it came to any of the major events. So everybody was at the same hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way it works now is the teams are responsible for booking all that stuff. So like we go to big cities, say like Toronto, for example, Major 5, like people are not all going to stay at the hotel that's right next to the venue. They're going to be all over. So it kind of kills what you're talking about, where you used to just be able to go downstairs to the bar or the lobby.
And just see your boy at the lobby or something and talk.
They were in the lobby or they were outside like smoking heaters and you could kind of have conversations. Now it's just like everybody's sort of all over, so you got to text and kind of find some neutral spot to hang out.
Yeah, it's just tough, and it's also so much more serious though too. I feel like teams now are like so again preparing, trying to just be a team, getting the vibe right and all that stuff. Like you can't just skip out on team dinners and shit. Like you just have to be with your boys at all time. You're trying to get into the right mindset to win this major. Like it's really hard to like kind of find some spare time, or at least maybe that's just how my brain works. But it's just So it's just been hard. Every time we've tried to schedule something, it's just been so busy, which is like totally understandable.
Feel you on that. So I'm curious to see how New York does. I've talked a lot on stream that like they are one of the 7 teams who I think can pull up to any event and win. Just get hot on a weekend. And they did it in Major 1 and just get it going. So curious to see what they do. Their remaining 2 matches for the stage are London and Boston. So I see them winning at least one of those. So they should be sort of a middle pack or top 4 seed going this event. So excited for that one. See the New York boys can get back in form because the last 2 events have not been it for them. Let's circle back to one of the teams we talked about earlier when we were talking about Toronto, the Vegas Legion, aka everybody's second favorite team in the CDL. They were heading into a week where it was looking really good. They had 2 winnable games against London and LAG, and you're like, okay, well, this team can get off to a 3-0 start, guarantee winners, and we see what happens the rest of the week. And unfortunately, in classic Vegas fashion, they play up to teams, but it also means they play down to teams. They lost a surprising match to London and had to absolutely grind out a series against LAG in 5 games. Question starting to you, Dylan. Why do you think Vegas has this issue where they just cannot beat the teams that should be below them?
I think that just comes down to the personnel they have on the team. Like some people perform better versus teams when they're like, they just know they're going to pub stomp and dominate them. Some other players don't mind going with like the, backs up against the wall mindset. We're playing against FaZe or OpTic. We got like, they're kind of just go in and it just doesn't click like it usually will. Maybe because everyone's not all bought in mentally. It's hard to say for sure. But the thing is that's weird about that first match versus London is they absolutely fried them
really
map
did.
1.
Yeah.
They were Standy was jumping out of pool, getting 3 pieces to break the first P3. They won, they 100-point clubbed them. And so I was like, okay, like they're about to come out and just dominate. But that wasn't the case. And then to lose the S&D, I think is really weird for them, just knowing how good of an S&D team they are. And I think that definitely hurts their momentum as well, because they're like, oh shit, like we're feeling on top of the world. They go into the S&D, they lose it. And then they might have got a little shell shocked of why, like to the rest of the series, they go, what the hell? We just lost the S&D. Probably felt like they should have played better and or won that, knowing how good they are at it. So I don't know if that affected them mentally for the rest of the series, but I was expecting a dominant showing out of them after that map 1, and they just fell flat. Then London came out and got the dub, which I don't think really anyone expected. I think everyone predicted Vegas to win.
Yeah.
Chris, you're at that?
I mean, I agree with what Dylan said for the most part. I was just going to say being good at S&D is a blessing and a curse in the sense like you can be good at S&D, but at the end of the day, like a few clutches don't go your way, one like a big one-on-one just, you happen to lose the one-on-one clutch, like something like that goes wrong. And you can find yourself down and almost just like losing like a 6-5 or 6-4 out of nowhere. Even when you're the better S&D team, 10 out of 10 times, like you'll probably win it 8. Like I do think S&D like can go massively wrong every once in a while, and that's why like it's really important to be good at that mode. But at the same time, you have to also try and capitalize more on other modes. And what I'm getting at with Vegas is their control 0-3. Their control 0-3, and for the year, I want to say
We won like 5 controls.
It's for the year, it's 5-22.
Yikes.
So
Wait, I'm pretty sure. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I think I saw a tweet saying that this past weekend, the team that won control was like 7-1 in matches or something, or like there was some crazy.
There were a lot of 3-1.
I'm sure that's
Yeah.
right. I'm sure
So,
something like
whoever
that's
wins the
right.
control is more than likely winning the series. So that's not
it's
good
just-
for Vegas that they're so bad at that mode.
You can't be a championship caliber team consistently without having that mode in good for you. It's the most. It's so weird because it is only one of the best of 5 modes, but it's probably the most important because it's only one of them. Because at the end of the day, like, you know, I don't know who picked what map and stuff with London, but like London and Vegas, but like you get your map pick and I get my map pick, right? Like, and hypothetically, you're going to be more comfortable on a hardpoint versus team than the other with vetoes and stuff, right? So like hardpoint going 1-1 is big. Being just a dominant hardpoint team is always nice, but a lot of the times, like with series, for example, Vegas and London, like you're not always just going to guarantee yourself 2 hardpoints versus them, especially with how competitive this league is. So being 5-22 in control, like search, it's just you can't do it. So with this series, like being as much of a surprise as it was, which I thought it was too. Once they lose that S&D, it's not a surprise anymore. You know, now all of a sudden, like they're probably down 2-1, and then now you got to win either maybe your S&D pick or their like hardpoint pick, like whatever it is. And it can just become really tough of a series win out of nowhere because of that. So like if they don't fix that, it doesn't matter what they do. Even like with Standy, like Standy brought more firing power on. They're a good team. I have a lot of faith. Like again, I'm not like trying to hate on them as much as I sound like I am. But like if they don't fix that, it doesn't matter who you bring on, dude. You know, like you need like that mode is so damn important. And right now they're struggling at it. So it's like they could be a team that plays up to their competition, like what you're saying, Ben. But at the same time, like they play up to that competition, they can win that search against those better teams, and like it usually will help them out. But at the same time, if they're not going to win their control and stuff, it's always going to be weird. So they're a scrappy team right now that has a lot of potential, but they just need to get it together a little bit more, and I think they'll be fine.
I'm sorry, but 5-22 and winning less than 20% of your controls is like completely unacceptable. To all your points, Chris, and like I just don't understand. I mean, we've had their players at times in like the flank chat into my stream, and whenever they respond, this comes up. It almost feels like they just accepted their team sucks at control, and they think it's a trolling mode, and they just don't take it seriously. I don't get it. This is the biggest limiter, bro. You were talking about earlier, Dylan. They lost a surprise S&D to London. Okay, 1-1, win the control, win the second respawn, and get out of here. The second hardpoint rather, and they're incapable of doing that because they can't win S&D controls at any clip. And then you're forced to win 2 straight. It's totally limiting their ability not only to be a contender in a championship team, it might prevent them from making champs this year.
Yeah,
and purely because they're not they don't understand the game mode. They don't want to. Maybe they're not putting the time in. It's just a complete mess, and it's disappointing, man. Because I think their hard point has gotten much better throughout the season. They're not an elite hardpoint team, but they were bad. Now they're better, and their S&D. I mean, they are I would say the second or third best S&D team, depending on how you want to look at it. Like they're very good.
They're good at
control is
S&D,
just crushing them. Yeah,
they're a good S&D team,
and they've been good at S&D start to finish this year. By the way, it's not just been like they got high S&D and they're just kind of rolling. Like they were an elite S&D team at the beginning of the season. Was you guys, them in Florida were the clear top 3. Now again, they're continuing to be good at search, but the control is just man.
important.
Yeah, you just can't have a game mode that bad.
You just can't. And especially when you don't get to choose your map pick all the time and stuff too. It's the only time you get to play that. You have that is the swing mode, dude. That's what saves you. That's what wins you series, and that's what prolongs the series. Like it's just everything, dude. It closes out. It's everything.
And here's the problem, Chris: is their next big? They have to beat Toronto. They want to make winners,
which is
you know
the best control team in the game.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know what Toronto's control record is?
They're insane at it. They're the best control team.
23-9 in matches. So like you're going to play a team that's winning 7 out of 10 controls. And you're a team that wins 1.5, 1.8, I guess, out of 10. Like Vegas got to get that mode together, or they're once again gonna sit here and make losers back it and Rube miss chances, and it's like it's kind of an obvious patch. So I know Chris, what you said you have to go in like 30, 40 minutes.
40 minutes. We have plenty of time.
40 minutes. All right. Well, let's rapid fire these next 3 topics and we get to some questions. So
All right, let's do it.
I'm going to talk about a couple of teams that only played one match this weekend. I want to start with ROKKR while I have you here, Dylan. ROKKR obviously came off the 2-0 week. Last week, it was looking good, but I think the question we all had was, okay, did they just get kind of the crowd buff, or are they actually a good team? And they played New York and didn't get the dub in that one. And now they're facing 2 particularly difficult matches next week between FaZe and Seattle. They're sitting at 2-1, so they could theoretically lose both and maybe make winners. But Dylan, what do you think Minnesota need to work on the next couple of days to play up to 2 very good opponents they have on Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, going back to like their last match, they came out hot first map versus New York, and it's like, oh shit, like this team looks like they're playing really well. Then they kind of just ended up getting slammed. I think that New York went up 5-0 and then eventually closed out the S&D, beat them in the control, and then just won. So like their hard point looks decent. It's just the other 2 modes that looks like they were a little uncomfortable in that series. And then it's hard to gauge how good you are when you play against like a FaZe or LAT, because like, yeah, if you come out and do well, it's awesome. But if you get smoked, it's like you're still playing really fucking good teams. And I think they just have to figure out S&D, and then also I don't know, because I haven't been behind the scenes with the team anymore. I don't know how their controls looking like on the Expo, but now that Fortress got taken out, I don't think we really played Fortress that much. We kind of did, but teams are just still probably going to veto a CeeLo versus them because they're 9-0 on it now. And that's going to be the thing. Like they were looking good at Hotel, but they still lost it. So it's like in scrims, I know that was the one map we would win was Hotel Control. Like when we were playing, we would always play really close, but I think that kind of the Vegas issue is kind of an issue for them too. If they can't start closing out those late round defenses or offenses on Hotel Control. So their control definitely needs to be improved.
I mean, I was going to say, I think control, yeah, because they had the map pull issue, and the S&Ds is the big question mark because all season, I know you all struggle with it. And I know with Fame and the team, they've been better at search, but again, 2 of those wins were against Florida, who have fallen off in S&D, and LAG, who haven't been that good of a search team. And they ended up losing to New York on no Hotel S&D in round 9. So I don't know how much better they are in that game mode. And again, look at the 2 teams they're playing next week. They're playing Chris's team, who have been the best S&D team all year, just coming off a mega long win streak, and a Seattle team that, you know, Lamar was saying,
LAT.
Oh, they play LAT.
Yeah.
They're playing LAT, who there might be an opportunity in search there, but again, LAT are a team that have a good idea how they want to play search, and they just blow mid round. So if you exploit that, you're good. But if you don't, you give them freebies, like they're still going to win searches. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know for ROKKR, man. I guess there's a team that we're gonna find out, just like with Boston. We'll get to them in a minute. Find a lot about them by like Saturday night if they're improved with Fame or if it's still the same spot they were in like 2 weeks ago.
Fair, yeah.
Cool. Well, we can move on. Let's talk about Seattle. Ramadan Abedi, man. Lamar is playing crazy right now. Slaying numbers are insane compared to what he's been putting up the rest of the season. They only had 1 game this week, but it was a fun one against Florida. They looked really comfortable. I think in the respawns, they only lost 1, which was that CeeLo S&D. And honestly, like they got kind of railed on the map. I wonder if they got counter-strat or just some issues. But normally their S&D has actually been pretty good this split. They've actually are like 2-2 in S&D, I think, this split, and they took 2 against Toronto. Look good in those. So
yeah, I think they dominated those 2 that they won versus Toronto as well.
Not gonna lie, I just missed everything you just said. But yeah, I was switching my headset just died. But if you're are you just gassing Lamar in like Seattle right now, and just like how they played?
Yeah, you want to go off on Seattle? Go ahead.
No, I'd be listen. Dude, you know, I think Lamar is good. Everyone knows this. I think Lamar provides a lot of stuff that teams don't even realize. I've said that. I don't need to say that again. I think like that's you know, kind of goes without being said. But yeah, he's just been playing really good, and if he's playing really good with this team, I think this team can be very dangerous. I think that, like, you know, it's just like everything that they've been kind of doing has just been like working out. But Yeah, I think it's more impressive that he's also doing it while fasting and everything too, which is pretty fucking crazy. But yeah, I mean the Seattle team looks good. I know we end up playing them and stuff too, but they've just been getting better at S&D, like a little bit more consistent. Where like that's been like the big question mark, and they're always going to be a pretty good respawn team in my opinion. I think they're always going to be a team that like you're playing one of the hard points that they can be dangerous at, and then their control this split their control is 2-1. They're 2-0 in a silo, and like they lost a hotel, but they're not terrible at like that in general. So I think overall they're looking really really good. I think if Lamar continues to play like this. Like not even KD wise, but he also just has a lot of kills per 10 minutes and all this stuff and all this everything that he's been doing. Like if PRED or Sib kick up a little bit more, they can be really dangerous. You know what I mean? Because like Lamar's doing what he needs to do for the team, getting into the time and doing everything he needs to, and also getting kills. Like if they kick up, they can be in a really good spot. So right now, I think if they have a confident Lamar with how good they can be, I think it's a good thing. It's just kind of waiting for the other two to like kick up and play even better, which we all know that's kind of inevitable. So.
Yeah, the one Seattle thing I'll say is because I agree, Chris. Like they're positioned well like this, they can win an event, easy peasy.
Yes.
The one question mark I have with their team is they liked playing Mercado hardpoint at stage 1. They haven't played it at all since stage 2. They don't play Mercado S&D at all, so they have a very clear auto veto in 2 game modes, which has kind of screwed them at times in vetoes against teams because you just like, well. Like, do we like now we're not taking away potentially other team's best map. Like we're just limited in strategy we can execute in those, and we may give another team favorable maps we have to score up on. Would love to see them make inroads in either one of those game modes. They can have one of the modes have an auto veto. It is what it is. Can't be good at every map. But having 2 auto vetoes is going to be a massive issue for them, really, as we get to champs, I think. And they got to try and get some progress on that in the next like 7-8 weeks.
Auto vetoes are never like if you do have a map that you tend to veto more, like in a sense it's an auto veto, like as long as you're able to play it, it's very like you have to make sure you're able to play it too, and like testing it out in matches. I think Dylan said that last podcast, like it's really really important, like get those reps on and stuff, and like make sure you can actually win it in matches and all that. But at the same time, like if they are truly just fully comfortable with the other 4, like you can definitely get it done. But I agree with like your logic, like you definitely want to. You're eventually gonna run into a team that you match up weird against, where like. For example, it used to be Hydro for them. Now it's Mercado. If they run into OpTic, OpTic's a good example with the Seattle team. They're not vetoing Fortress, right? And they're not vetoing Hydro. And those are 2 really good maps for OpTic. What's another map that's really good for OpTic too is Mercado. But like my point is like they have to veto Mercado and then they're forced to play OpTic's like 2 really really good maps. And like immediately right there, like OpTic is sitting there playing that series like this is fucking good. Not saying that Seattle's like the lesser team in the sense where they can't compete on those maps. Like, of course they can, but it's just like you kind of play into some of those like similar scenarios. So it's just like kind of pick and choose with like what you do. I don't know. OpTic's probably not the best example too because they're so dangerous right now. But you know my point. Like, there's going to be times where like you run into teams that are just like really good at certain maps, and it's like maybe you don't want to play them, but you kind of have to. OpTic's a bad example right now because they're just kind of dominant at hardpoint in general. I was just trying to like make more of a point. Wrong team, but still, yeah.
But yeah, I get your point. Like the double Mercado again, the double Mercado thing is part of like, for example, why I think like they've struggled against Boston this year because Boston's not a good Mercado team, but they're taking Boston's worst maps out of the series for them, and then Boston's then making their inroads elsewhere, and so now you're getting Boston's playing in favorable maps probably across 4 of the 5. So it's like they need to get inroads into 1. It will help them with overall strategy. They're a good enough team on the rest of the map pool. Just got to figure it out. I'm not saying now you got to figure it out. I think because they're making champs. Everything's about champs. I think figuring out by champs time would be really key to pick.
I think every team knows that. Even my own team, like can't sit here and act like we have to work on shit like that too. So for sure, there's still time to do it. But yeah, I think your logic's right.
Hundo P. Let's keep it moving and grooving. We were just talking about Boston. They only had 1 match last weekend. This, I believe, was the first match with Kremp, correct? He didn't play week 1, if I remember.
No, I don't think he did.
Reese played both matches week 1.
Yeah, so Kremp came in for the London match. Pretty decent win for Boston in that, but it was a while ago. Curious what you guys thought of Kremp's debut and how you think he may fit in as they have to play OpTic in New York next week to finish off their stage.
I think it was actually good that he came in and played a match like that. Of course, you want to come in and play the top teams and see how they match up. But to have more time with that roster in scrims to go over stuff and get more comfortable with each other is a huge advantage, I think. And then they played London, which if they lost that, it gets bad because that's one of the matches they should be winning. But they won it, which is great. So that gives them a little bit more confidence. And now they know they have to have their heads down, getting ready, preparing for the next couple matches, which is OpTic and New York, and to really see what this team's about, because they made a change that was kind of controversial. People can understand it. Some people are mad at it, but if they come out and get smoked, everyone's going to hate it. If they come out and put up a good fight or even win, people are going to love it. So they're really in the prove it era right now, where they got to go out there and they got to do it. And having that extra week of practice under the belt might help them a lot. So we just got to wait and see how they look and what form they're in versus these upper echelon of teams.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, I think the only thing I would say, if I was being honest about this Boston team, is I don't know Kremp too much as like a person or a player yet. The Vivid Nero like playstyle, we talked about how like it can kind of be like a super double-edged sword and like it can kind of hurt you, and sometimes that doesn't always mesh well. But I'll say one thing, like depending on how like methodical and like smart this Boston team is trying to go for, like maybe that's the route they're going for, and maybe that's what Kremp does. I'm not too sure. Like taking away that play style can be a scary thing too, because I think Dill, like when you probably play against them, they can be really annoying to play against at sometimes when like both those guys are just like running around like fucking maniacs and like just the way it plays. So they want to find more consistency, but like they're also potentially losing that, because from what I've seen with Kremp, it doesn't look like he's as like reckless as like someone like Vivid. Like he looks like a little bit more just like well thought out as a player, just like from the little I've seen of against him, like even like in scrims and stuff, like he looks a little bit more well thought out, which isn't a bad thing, but it depends on like if that's like what they're really going for, and that can make them almost easier to play against potentially if like it doesn't work fully out. But at the same time, like it's kind of just like what their camp's going for in general with their team, so we'll kind of have to wait and see. I do think he's really good though, from like seeing like watching him play and stuff. He looks like he's pretty solid. And if his comms and everything else are good, we kind of have to wait and see like how they play against some of the better teams. That London match for them is big. I think what Dylan said, you get that match and you get some of that confidence. And I think something that's really underrated is like your communication in matches. Like any like scrims are a little bit more relaxed. Some people tend to get into the moment a little bit more on stage or in matches. And that's something that you can really learn from too. Like, you go into that London match, it's more serious, and then you see a lot of mistakes that you would never see in a scrim. It's just because of the overall atmosphere of a match. So I think that was big for them to get that win, kind of be able to critique and play some of the better teams coming forward, and kind of have to wait and see. So, well, that's really it.
Yeah, they've got tough ones. OpTic and New York are not going to be easy outs. As Boston try to confirm their spot in the bracket on the winner's side, but also managed to get a good seed. They are sitting at 2-1, so you don't need to win both. Obviously, winning both would be great, but just getting one of the two would get them 100% in. So
yeah,
curious to see, and we'll get to their matches and sort of the schedule piece at the end. I think last topic, and it's kind of be sort of a free for all: Florida, London, and LAG. The bottom three teams in the league right now, all sort of in various standings. If you just give me 1 second, I'll let you know exactly how they all stand currently in this qualifier. They are all currently so Florida is 0-4, LAG 0-3, and London 1-3. So Florida probably can't make winners, but do you see either London or LAG potentially sneaking in, or you think it's probably chalk for them?
Who do they play?
Yeah, who would
LAG play?
So who's LAG play?
Yes.
So LAG this weekend. Just give me 1 second. Let's try to schedule. Okay, there we go. LAG have to play OpTic, so
that's a tough one.
and Seattle.
That's another tough one.
But London have New York, which could be interesting. So maybe what you guys think? Maybe London's got the best chance to somehow go 2-3 of the two, because I don't see.
Yeah, I'd probably say London, but like because New York could go out there and 3-0 them, or they could have one of their mixy series where it gets a little close and things get weird. But I would say, if I had to guess, I'd say them. Like London would have the best chance of going 2-3. I just don't see LAG being able to beat OpTic. And then if they lose that first, because our first match was OpTic, correct?
Yeah.
If they lose that match versus OpTic, I think they're already down in
I
the
think the
dumps
mental's
as it is.
chalked,
Mentally
yeah.
is
One
already
and four
chalked.
shocked.
So if they
Yeah.
lose that, then their mental's even more chalked, and I don't see them beating Seattle when their mental's already chalked even more. So I guess I'd
Yeah.
say London, but I really don't think realistically, I don't think any of these matches matter for them because I don't think either the teams, or any of those 3 teams are making champs. They're just kind of in there, grind it out, and finish the season out. Try and hope for the best. Do your thing. Try and improve as players and as a team. But I don't see any of these teams making champs.
Yeah, there's positives to take from it, like what Dylan said. Try and win a major, try and win. Do your thing. But like at the end of the day, like you're probably not going to champs. You can always still make that scenario work, and I do think like those scenarios are kind of what like builds your character as a player.
Yeah.
And like that's like who truly becomes successful is like through situations like that. So I do think it's like a really big moment for those guys like on those teams. But at the same time, like I don't know. I mean, man, like LAG is just the weirdest team to me. London's always sucked, like just because they had a rough start, bro. Like they started rough from the beginning. Like I don't know, like they just kind of never really.
They're always at the bottom. With, like, the
that's
points.
what I mean. Like I'm not even trying to rip into them, but they just always kind of had like a rough start, and they never really like regained. Florida had like a bunch of roster changes and a bunch of like a shit show too. But I just feel like LAG, man, like they didn't start terrible. And then they just like let themselves become like I don't know. It was like so weird to me. Like even that academy team before they got Alec, like when they like brought up the academy team, like I just feel like they were decent at hardpoint. They had some promise, and then like I feel like one match is like they like this could be so wrong, but it just looked like they mentally just fucking chalked it. And I don't know, like they're the weirdest team because I still think like they have it in them somewhere, but at the same time, like I don't know. I there's like some promise in there somewhere, but I feel like they like almost like let themselves like kind of like fall into just a trap of just like not getting better and letting everything affect. I don't know, but yeah, it's just chalk. So I think right now what Dylan said is just like focus on yourselves right now. Focus on like getting through what you're going through right now as a team and try to come out on the other side better from it and continue your career that way. And obviously try and make as much money as you can in some of the majors, but it's just tough. I don't see either of those teams really making a crazy run. Anything's possible. I do think LAG's got the most promise somewhere deep down inside, but I just don't know if they're gonna bring it out. Yeah,
feel you on that. So we shall see. Let's talk schedule and then we'll take some questions. So folks, if you got questions, put them in my chat, Dylan's chat, Chris's chat, and we'll grab them.
Let's get it, chats. Give us some good ones. Give us some good questions, please.
Let's talk schedule. Chris we'll put up on stream here. We got a number of good matches. We already talked about a bunch of them that are going to be this week, but let me highlight a couple and then you guys let me know of the ones you guys like. I think the two big matches on Friday are the Vegas Toronto match, which I think is right off the bat probably massive. Really, one of Vegas's biggest games of the entire season.
Yeah,
we got ROKKR FaZe, and then on Saturday we have OpTic Boston and FaZe Seattle. The final 2 matches I think are really massive. And then the 2 on Sunday I think that are really good. Potentially Thieves and ROKKR, if ROKKR, depending what the tiebreaker scenarios are like. And then Boston, New York could be a crazy one for seeding theoretically down the line. So of those 6 matches, 2 on each day, like which one are you guys excited for the most?
What do you think, Dill?
For the first day?
Yeah. What about Friday?
Probably. Well, for me, it'd be the ROKKR FaZe
I would say,
one.
like, we both have, that makes sense for us.
The
but,
ROKKR
like,
FaZe one would be pretty fun. But for seeding implications, and I think for the champs Vegas dream that everyone wants it, I think you probably have to go with the Vegas Toronto, because if Vegas wins that, they're in a pretty good spot for winners. Of course, get extra 10 points. So that's just like a huge match for them. It's probably their biggest match of this season so far. Because if you start, you get in winners at Major 4, you win a round or 2. Who knows what's going to happen? But that match is going to be exciting.
I think that match could be weird too, just because Toronto's been struggling in S&D and Vegas
standing in Toronto too. I forgot about that.
Oh, that's
standing
true.
in Toronto.
Duh, yeah. But like, I do think like the S&D for Vegas looks good, and Toronto's obviously struggling in that. I don't think Vegas has a chance of beating Toronto in control. But however the hard points do go, this series could be a weird one potentially. But I also do think with that rivalry and stuff, like with Scrap and Standy and Toronto and Standy and all that shit, like that should be a fun one to watch. And then the rest of them that we're looking at, like New York, Florida, Vegas, don't care. Like, I mean, like, it's curious to watch this Vegas play because of like the situation that they're in. I think it's cool, but I think the Boston Texas one could be potentially a good matchup. Like, just because I you know, we'll see. Like, I think OpTic looks incredible right now, but like Boston's definitely not a bad team where like it could be a really good matchup depending. But if OpTic keeps form, I'm not sure about that. And then
that match is fun just because we're seeing if like that new Boston roster, how they match up versus a top team right now.
And if OpTic keeps their form, like, well, you know, like obviously can they keep staying as hot as they are? So like, and then everything else, like nothing too crazy. Seattle Surge, FaZe, of course.
I think Seattle, Seattle FaZe is probably the match everyone and myself personally looking forward to the most because it's like, how good is Seattle doing? How does
and those series always end up crazy.
And how does and the series always are crazy. So
somehow,
like,
some way, bro.
Keep the Ramadan Lamar keep frying and like how will it match up if he's playing really well versus FaZe and like what do other people step up as well on the roster and then like that'll be a good series too.
And then Boston New York is a good one too. That should be a good one. But yeah, that's about it. We get any good questions, Ben?
Yeah, we got a good one from Wheel. I'll answer this and I'll kick to you, Kristen. Sure. I actually know the answer to this, kind of.
Oh shit.
So obviously everybody and their mom keep accidentally leaking the champ's location. We're not going to say what it is on this stream. But Wheel, in your chat was asking like, why is it delayed? The only plausible reason I can think of is knowing how some of this works is they're a large corporation. And until like every agreement with the venue is done, they're ready to roll tickets, like they probably don't want to announce it on the off chance that they need to like if something goes wrong and then they need to switch locations. So I would assume that maybe the contractual piece of that is the only thing holding it back. But the problem is it's taken so long now. It's been mentioned a couple of times supposedly. So like a lot of the luster of the announcement is kind of not there anymore. It's more just going to be like a check the box type thing.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows where it's gonna be. You don't want me to say it on this?
No, don't get us in trouble.
Okay, I can't believe it's in Florida.
Dude, that's crazy.
But Miami Champs is gonna be lit.
Miami, can you imagine? Can you imagine?
No, I honestly don't want to imagine that. Fuck that, bro.
They're getting robbed.
I was just in Florida last week. It was a good time.
Yeah, right now, not in Champs time. It'd be humid as shit.
Oh yeah, we make $100,000. You're at Live and Story, just getting all the bottles. Who knows where you're going after that all night?
We had a Miami event this summer and it was hot.
It was a fun event, but it was fucking hot, man. God damn.
Very hot and humid.
Yeah. Dude, Florida in the summer's tough, but is there any other ones? Any other good ones, bro?
Someone asked me.
Go ahead, Dylan.
What?
Someone asked me, could you ask why we haven't seen simp hit levels like Cold War?
Simp?
Yes.
To be completely honest with you, I think
he's been playing well though. No, like
well, the standard of
Cold War levels, but
Simp's low quote unquote low point that this guy's trying to bring up is better than a lot of people. Like he's still fucking insane. He's not playing bad at all. Like to be very clear, but I think I said this about like our system and Respawn. Like last year we were a shit show, dude. Like I've mentioned it a couple times. We were so bad last year, bro. Like just like we're so much shit that we never found a flow state in that game. I think last year ever. We just like somehow did good. It was a bunch of shit that went wrong. Not going into it. And then this year, like our system of Respawn to start the year, bro, he was getting our most, like Chris was getting our most hill time. He was making up for a lot of stupid mistakes that we were making. Like he was getting thrown into a lot of situations he shouldn't have been. And I think that like, made him play a harder game. And that's why, like, I guess being biased and his coach, like that kid is so fucking good. It is unbelievable. And like, I think when he gets to play more of the play style that like, sends him to be more helpful to the team and like play better his like statistically, like it's better for him. And that's obviously what we're trying to turn around right now. Is just like the way we were playing hardpoint is just so fucking stupid. And like it's time, like there's no more arguing about it. Like that we decided to change it, and like there's no like back and forth. Like we put our foot down on a lot of things to get better at some shit. So like again, we're trying to put him into more advantageous positions to do better and shit like that. But yeah, Chris not playing levels of Cold War means he's not God himself, but at the same time he still is that fucking good. And like he is really good. Like it's more or less just like last year. I really think we just weren't good last year, to be honest with you, for a lot of reasons that I'm not going to go too deep down into. And then this year we were playing like absolute fucking idiots, and now we're not. And now we're trying to change it around and get him more active and a bunch of other stuff. So I still think he's just as fucking good, if not probably even better. He's probably even more of a mature and smarter player nowadays. It's just more or less getting him to like really, really fucking go crazy, which I know he will. So I'm fully confident that that's completely fine and it's gonna happen.
Cool. I got one more question. It was from Clan in my chat, and basically was asking like, what are our thoughts on the major format? Would you love to see us go back to maybe or to a format now where we de-emphasize the online matches? You still have them, but they seed into pools for the majors. I think the problem with that is that the league kind of likes this one stage, one match thing. And if we're going to add like a group stage and a bracket of majors, you're adding on a number of extra days to the events. So just with their current process right now, you wouldn't be able to do that. But I think we all agree that going into next season, I think they need to rethink this current way they do the online matches. Just unbalanced per major schedule with 5 matches. It really just doesn't do it. It feels really awkward, and like some teams are just getting the bad luck of the draw on how certain majors play out with the form of their team, and not getting a fair shake compared to other teams that have an easier schedule. Here's your guys' thoughts on that.
I agree with you. Right? Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. That's nothing too crazy, no? Am I faded?
No, and I think I know why. I know why the league. Listen, we've talked about it. Like, I know that they want to make sure that certain matchups are actually happening during the given year. Because if we do this thing like we did the second year, where it's like, okay, well now everybody kind of draws groups after each major, and you get some of the same groups, and you never see OpTic FaZe, OpTic LA Thieves, all these big viewership draws. They don't happen. Like, that's disappointing. But there are better ideas in what they're doing right now, and I think it's not giving everybody a fair shake. So hopefully they revisit that in the off season. So I think that's it on the questions. Thanks, Dylan, for hopping on today.
Thank you for having me again, back to back. Look at us.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Chris, take us out.
All right, yeah, that's about it. We hit some good questions, some good topics. We have some good matches to come up. We'll be back live for another podcast next week, probably Monday or Tuesday. I would assume probably Monday, sometimes Tuesday. That's going to be like the days. I know a lot of people are coming in the chat asking like when we're going live and stuff. But yeah, I appreciate you guys obviously coming out to all our chats and watching. Yeah. It's been an incredible support on YouTube again. The viewership has been going up. Everyone's been showing a lot of love, and you guys have seen the dislike the type of style of just like podcasts in general. Hopefully we can keep going with more episodes, more guests, and all that stuff. But we do seriously appreciate all of your support and all that. And again, if you guys ever have some topics to talk about or anything that you guys want to see discussed potentially, shoot a tweet, probably more at Ben, but me too. Just or just mention us both and we could talk about it and potentially bring it up in some of the future casts as well. But we do appreciate you guys. We do love you guys. Dylan, thanks for having being here. You're always welcome. Especially
thank you so
whenever
much.
you are free, you can be on here, and we always appreciate your knowledge. But that is a wrap for Scrap Time, and we will be seeing you guys next episode.